Hello, uh, my name is Nikhil Netraganti, and this is my app for 335 project. So my app is a diabetic tracker called DiaTrack, and so how I got this project idea is that my dad is diabetic, and the way he tracks his diabetic logs is to write them down on paper, and then he would show them to the doctor, and the doctor would have no sense, like what he was looking at. And it was just confusing for everybody. So I wanted to create an app where he could put all of his really important health stuff in a readable format, and it would also provide other functionalities such as showing him the closest pharmacy or showing him what exactly is in the drugs he puts in, because both of those are very important other than the log, because if you're running low on medications, you want to know exactly what are the closest pharmacies available to you, and it shows them on the map, and you can see how much you have to walk to them or how close you are. The second most important thing about the app is the API call to Mappy, and it returns the drug info. So if you were to put in a drug name such as insulin, it would return the correct dosage and the the substances in it. Because a lot of people don't know exactly what's in the medications. They're just given a prescription and they just take it and they don't know what's going inside their body. This tells you exactly what's going inside your body. And yeah, that's how I came across the project idea. And I thought it could be really helpful for a lot of diabetic people because it's kind of like a diabetic helper. It lets them do everything they need to do and everything that they consider important for their diabetic health. And yeah, that's how I thought about the project idea. So this is my class diagram. So the way it works is you get to the main view, which is just the UI for you, and then it shows you the logo, it shows you it it shows you other information, just makes it look pretty. And then you go to the main controller, which has three buttons, right? And the three buttons go to three different views. One of them is called a walk controller. So basically, the first thing the walk controller does is has a map view in it, and it shows your current location, and then it shows the pharmacies closest to you. It's called walk controller because it shows you the distance you would have to walk to that place. So if you're running low on medications, you can just go in the app, show your current location, click go, it'll show you the closest pharmacy, and you can walk to it. And so walk controller uses three different things. It uses the CLL location manager, it uses the delegate for the map, and then it uses location services, right? All of which are intertied with each other, and it basically does what I just said. It displays the closest pharmacy to your location. It also allows you to scroll over a map area and then click go on that, so it'll show you the pharmacy in that map area. So, and then the second thing view that you can go through from the main controller is the drug view controller. And it basically has a UI label where you can or a text field where you can input the name of your drug, and then it calls the model, right? It calls the model, which does all the UI JSON processing and calls the API, and the model returns what's a string which contains all the data it received, which would be the doses and the substances, and you use the main thread to access the UI label and then display it in a readable format. Uh, and then the third thing that you can do, the third view that you can transition to is the log view controller, which is basically the main functionality of the app. The log view controller is a table view, and it displays a logs of things that of your diabetic logs, which would be your core data uh, saved logs. So the log controller has two things that you can do with it. The first thing is an add button that takes you to an add controller where you can add in a new log. And the new log and the add controller, the new log has glucose, calories, meal type, and then you can uh, select a picture for that meal. So basically how you want to do it is You want to enter, you want to measure your glucose, you want to put that in. You want to measure your calories or estimated amount, put that in. You want to take a picture of your meal, and then you want to select that picture uh, from your photo library, or you can just click another button called take a picture, which basically checks if the device has a camera because the simulators don't. And then if the device has a camera, it lets you take a picture and then choose that picture as the picture for the log. And then all of all of the stuff that you've input in goes to the model, and the model interacts with the core data and saves all the stuff there. And then it updates the view. So, and then goes from there. If you go back to the log view controller again calls model. It sees that there's an update, so it updates the view to include the new log. And then if you click on a single table cell, which would be one log, it goes to something else called log controller. The log controller would display your view in a picture of the picture, the calories, the meal type, the glucose, and the log controller calls the model, and it gets the data by that selected row and index. And that's how my class diagram is, and how my app is broken down into. So the next thing here is the MVC diagram. So the main purpose of the controller is to handle data by the view. So it retrieves current user location, it retrieves the current stored logs, it retrieves the current log information. It sends the data that the user has put in to the model for the API. It sends the user the data that the user has put in for each log, like the glucose and all that. Like, it saves it and then it sends it to the model, and it basically interacts with the model and the view. So the main things the controller does is sends information that the user put in to the model, and then the model interacts with core data to save the information to core data. So, or fetch the information required from core data. So if you're looking at a new log, or if you're adding a new log, and then it also calls the API with the data that the controller sends it, which is the user interaction, user's input, like drug name. It does the JSON processing for that, right? And then it sends the data back to the controller for that log, for that drug. And then the view is basically UI. It interacts with the user, right? It provides all the data in a readable format. So its main purpose is to show your user location on the map, show the closest pharmacies on the map, show the current log in table, which would be the diabetic logs, all in a readable format with the picture and the data associated with it. And then yeah, that's it. And it also updates the table view. So whenever there's an update from the model or to the core data, it updates the table view. And the basic function of the view is to just display the data in a readable format. So the capabilities of the app, the first most important capability is it can show you diabetic logs, right? That's what the main function of the app is. It can show and allow you to add in new diabetic logs. So if you're a user, you can enter your health data info, you can enter the log info, and then the second capability is to show your current location, as well as show the nearest pharmacies around you, and show a pharmacy is in a scrolled map area. The second thing it can do is it can call it an API, which is the map API I'm using, with the user input text, which would be the drug name, get the JSON information, process that JSON into an NS dictionary, return the values, which would be the medication and the substances. And there were two different API calls, because the one that returns doses and the one that returns the substances are two different APIs that Mappy provides. And it can show you your diabetic information and all of that. So here is a kind of very quick UI walkthrough video of it, and you can see how you interact with all of it. Yeah, that's basically how my app works, and it shows all the capabilities and what it can do. All right, so the main lessons I learned doing this project was JSON processing. That's the one thing that I found that was difficult. So I had done XML processing before for other classes, and I thought XML was the best. But I found out that JSON is much easier to use, and it's more readable too. So the second thing, which was not covered in class, that I had to implement was to check if the device had a camera. So in the simulators on the Mac, they don't have a camera, and if you let the user choose for a camera, it would crash the app. So I had to figure out a way to check if the device had a camera, and if it did, allow them. But if it didn't, give them a UI alert view, which is the next thing I learned. So the UI alert view, which I want the users to have an alert that says, hey, the camera doesn't have an app, or hey, you haven't put in an input text for the API, and you can't call it with nothing. So the alert view just throws it in their face and says, you need to do this, or this doesn't exist. The fourth thing I learned is location search. This was already covered in class extensively, but I wasn't as comfortable with it. So I had to figure out a lot of stuff about like CLL location, the way it worked, and how to properly use it and stuff like that. So the most challenging part of this project was the MVC implementation. I knew how to do everything in the same controller, but I did not know how to make them all broken out into model and view controller, have the JSON processing, the API, and the core data all in one model. So yeah, those are what I learned. So my suggestions for improvement of the class was I had a lot of difficulty trying to make the app look good. And that was because I wasn't using SpriteKit at all. And the reason I wasn't using SpriteKit was that we learned it in the last 2 weeks of class. And at that point, I had already committed a lot of my time to creating the UI, and it would just be too much to implement it all. So maybe teach SpriteKit much earlier on, like the week that the milestone is due, so that you can implement some of those features. And the second thing that would improve with the class would be to include the most complex functionality of the iPhone, such as iPhone has 3D touch, how to use device rotation, health kit, and then watch OS apps. Because my app would work a lot better if I could use watch OS and then integrate like heart rate or like personal profiles from healthgrid. And then what I would like to be improved on the project is more feedback after the milestone, because there was a lot of times where I needed help to implement the MVC, and the stuff that I turned in for the milestone wasn't as thorough as it needed to be for the project. So if I had gotten more feedback after the milestone, maybe a one-on session with the TAs or the professors, I think would have helped out a lot. And yeah, SpriteKit would have made my project look much nicer. Yeah, that was my project, and I hope you liked it. Thank you.